Hey everyone, welcome back to another video of the Lego City in my apartment. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a comment that was left. It asked if I have any tips for starting a Lego City, and I figured I'd make a little video. I have a few tips, tricks, and pointers that I used. I'll point out a few things I wish I had done, and a few things that I wish I hadn't done, and a few things that I'm glad I did. So without any further ado, we'll get right into it. We'll start off with buildings. Buildings are obviously kind of the cornerstone of any Lego city, and it kind of goes without saying you're going to have to fork out some cash, unfortunately, and it's not going to happen overnight. My city, most people who watch the channel know I do some custom buildings and I do the standard modular buildings just to give it a nice healthy mix and just make it so it's not just the plain Jane modular buildings. One thing I avoid and I wish I hadn't spent money on are backless Lego city buildings like these ones here. I'm still keeping these just because I like them, and it's from the town plan and the 2005 fire station and this family reunion celebration here. I just wouldn't recommend doing it because I think backless buildings don't really look good. I know some people do use them in their city, and that's perfectly fine. I personally just don't think they look very good, so I choose not to use them. I think a fully enclosed building looks much more realistic, a lot less kid-like, and I want the city to look like an adult built it, and that's pretty much the gist of it. So that kind of wraps it up for buildings. It's pretty self-explanatory. One other tidbit I will throw in there: if you're not very creative, like I'm not very creative with building custom buildings and adding the detail. What I do, I just go on Pinterest, Lego Ideas, or Bricklink Studio Gallery. I'll either download it from Bricklink Studio Gallery or I will build it in Bricklink Studio if there's no studio file for it. I'll just build it, order the parts myself, and then you have a building. I've done that for several different mocks within my city, and it ends up being pretty good. And in the video, I always try to give credit to the creator because it's not technically my original build. I usually do tweak it just a bit, but I will always try to give credit when it's due. So that wraps up buildings. Next up, we'll go to roads. All right, for roads. So there are about 3 different methods that I know of for making roads in a Lego city. You have your road plates that are out today, your old road base plates, and making them yourself with bricks. So I'll start off with road plates. Obviously, I use them. I think they are the best method that Lego has right now. There are drawbacks, there are advantages. For me, the advantages outweigh the drawbacks, so I'll start off with the drawbacks. They sit higher than an actual base plate, and that has led to the development of the Mills system, which I will talk about in another segment in this video. That's a big drawback. Another drawback is you cannot do curves with these. If you just have them alone, you cannot do curves unless you use the Mills system, which I suppose you could kind of get away with it if you don't. But if you want to do curves, you got to be a little creative with it. And I've seen people do it, and it actually does look pretty good, but you got to be creative with it. So that's another drawback. And I would say the biggest drawback with the road plates is the Lego City set themselves. It is overpriced, and you get a bunch of junk that you don't need. What I'm saying is you get 4 road plates, 1 crosswalk plate, and a bunch of other junk like the traffic lights, the road signs, the light poles, the flowers, the trees. I don't want any of that. I just want the road plates and the sidewalk. And I think most people would agree with me because I custom build my traffic lights. I custom build my light poles, my trees. They're all custom built except for that one, obviously. But I don't need all that. So that's one of the major drawbacks. And I think from now on, I actually have it in my cart right now in Bricklink. I just order the plates from somebody off of Bricklink because I'm not wasting money on just stuff I don't need. So that's kind of my take on it. Up next, road base plates. So the biggest drawback now with those is obviously they're retired. You can't buy them off the Lego website directly. You have to buy them from a secondhand source. So that's a drawback, and you're probably going to pay for them too. The other drawback I would say is if you wanted to build a scene on your road, like with the road plates, I can just take off one of the tiles and put a plate in there with studs on it and make a little scene. Whereas with the old road base plates, you have to balance it on there. So that kind of sucks. But I will say the advantages of the road base plates, are The width of the road, you can put basically any vehicle you want on there. The curbs or the studs on the side, you can build curbs, add other things into your Lego city that you wouldn't normally be able to with these road plates here. And they actually come with curves. So that would be the advantages, disadvantages of the road base plates. One of the other advantages of the road plates I didn't mention is that you can build as many lanes as you want too. So they're very versatile in that sense. And lastly, the brick built roads where people literally just buy tons of bricks and just build the road that way. I haven't really seen it too much. I've seen it a little bit, but for me, it is way too expensive to do it that way too time consuming. I don't have that much time on my hands to do all that. And it's just not really a feasible option for me. I've seen people that do it, they do a very good job, but that one is just not for me. So that kind of wraps up roads. Next up, I'm going to go to the MILS system. All right, so up next, we've got the MILS system. MILS stands for Modular Integrated Landscaping System. And what that is a system where you put, I actually have a very crude example down here. You put a base plate, some bricks in the center, and plates up top, and that gives you a MILS plate. This is a crude example. Normally there are Technic bricks in there so you can connect them with Technic bricks. But what that does is it gives you the height that you need to get it over the road plate, and the road plates typically are built up a plate or two as well. So the advantages. The advantages are that it looks a little more realistic and it is much more sturdy from what I've heard. Also, you can do cool depth effects if you really know what you're doing with the plates. You can do like rivers and like little mountains and whatnot. I think it looks pretty cool the way people do it as well. But the drawbacks, it is very expensive. I have about 81 to 84 base plates in the city. I don't have time to do that, number one. And number two, it would be an absurd amount of money for me to convert all of them. So that's the main drawback for me, is that it just takes way too much time and way too much money. Because I would have to basically reassemble every single first floor of every modular building to convert it. Would I like to? Yes, but I don't have the time, and I don't really have the money because your boy's trying to get a house. So that's the main drawback. It's just cost and it's time consuming. However, the people that do use this MILS system, I think it's very cool and it's very versatile with what you can do with it. So that wraps up the MILS system. Up next, we'll go to minifigures. All right, so for minifigures, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I did want to throw in a few tidbits. Being a Lego City guy myself, minifigures are fairly cheap compared to like Star Wars or Marvel or other licensed sets where you will have to pay, especially on the secondhand market, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra, whereas Lego City minifigs typically run about $1.50 to $3 a piece. Maybe a little more depending on if it's kind of rare, but most Lego City minifigs you're not gonna have to pay very much for. One thing I have really liked going on is Facebook Marketplace, Bricklink, and eBay. I've gotten a ton of Lego minifigs on those sites for really good deals. Those are probably going to be your best friend. Obviously, the Lego City sets as well. You can always add to your minifig collection that way too. But Bricklink, Marketplace, and eBay, by far, going to be your best friends with that. Up next, we've got vehicles. So the whole reason for having roads is so vehicles can travel on them. One tip I have is when you go to Bricks and Minifigs, if you have one in your area, look in the glass case. A lot of times they will have cheap vehicles that were part of a set that the person didn't have when they traded the set in. They have it for pretty cheap, $5 to $15. I've gotten a lot of vehicles that are in the city that way. And some of them might be missing a piece or two here, but I have enough in my inventory, or just when I make a pick-a-brick order, I just add the couple of pieces that it's missing and it becomes a vehicle in the city. One of the things I do want to do in the city though is try to get rid of a couple more of the vehicles that you wouldn't normally see running around a Lego city. One of them being this slushy van here, and I'm well aware you wouldn't normally see this as well, but come on, it has to go by the haunted house. I think it looks really cool. But anyway, I'm trying to get rid of them and put more realistic vehicles. Another good tip, Bricklink Studio Gallery has a ton of downloadable vehicles that you can download into Bricklink Studio, and it will tell you all the parts you need, and you can order them yourself and make it. And that's one thing I really want to start doing. Another thing I want to start doing in the Lego City is add a few more taxis, because I had this one and it's a creator set. I'm sure if you're a true Lego fan, you'll probably know this set I'm talking about here. But the thing I hate about it, you can't put a minifig in there. Like, what is the point? Why not make it so you can have a minifig in there? I don't understand that. So that's another vehicle I'm trying to phase out. But that's my little tidbit on vehicles. eBay, Bricklink, and like I said, Bricks and Minifigs, the glass case. That's your friend for getting cheap cars. So that wraps up most of my tips and tricks. I do have a couple of others. First one will be Flickr. I know Flickr is an antiquated website and not a lot of people use it anymore. It's probably about 15 years out of date. But if you need some Lego inspiration or just want to see some cool builds, check out Flickr, because there's still a lot of good stuff on there. The idea for this build, this Andy's Hamburgers build, and I have one more in my Bricklink Studio cart or file, whatever you want to call it, that I plan on building, and all those are from Flickr. Still a lot of good stuff on there, so check that out if you get a chance. Next up is when you make custom built things like these traffic lights here, these are all custom built. I make them myself and design them. It's not gonna look good on the first try. So don't get discouraged when you build something for the first time and it just looks horrendous. You're gonna have to go back and redo it and keep redoing it until it looks really good, which I think all these look pretty good. I'm really happy with how the traffic lights and street poles have turned out. I think they look very realistic. And like I said, I'm happy with it. The last bit of advice I have is when you go to the Lego store, look on the Pick-a-Brick wall. I can't tell you how much money I've saved by getting bricks off the Pick-a-Brick wall, because it's so much cheaper than buying it off the Pick-a-Brick website. For example, this pretzel factory has 11 to 1200 masonry bricks, just 1x2 bricks in there. If I were to buy that off the Lego Pick-a-Brick website, that's 14 cents a piece times 1200. You do the math. Versus $18 for a large box on the Pick-a-Brick wall, and you fit about 500 in there. So you're gonna save money if you use the Pick-a-Brick wall at the Lego store. Sometimes there's nothing but junk on there that I just don't want, and sometimes there's a whole treasure trove of pieces that I want. So that wraps up the video of all my tips and tricks. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.